Before diving into the fun, let's talk about the basics of playing Tools and Titans. So how do you play Tools and Titans? Easy. Draw your cards. Charge your energy. Build your field. Act with your powers. Clash with your Titans. End your turn 6 steps. One epic battle. All right, another spark and another build. Welcome, builders of the Weave. Today, we're not talking about a shiny new Titan or a glorious guild war. We're going somewhere darker, somewhere forgotten. We're heading to Zone 6.
That's right. We're taking a journey into the Junkyard. In most card games, the discard pile is an afterthought. It's a graveyard, a final destination, a place where spent cards and broken tools go to be forgotten.
But Tools and Titans has a different philosophy. Nothing is ever truly forgotten. Here, the Junkyard isn't just a graveyard. It's a living, breathing part of the game. It's a place of memory, decay, and most importantly, strategic resurrection.
Exactly. Think of it less as a trash can and more as a symbolic scrapyard. It represents lost labor, failed dreams, and the inevitable entropy that comes for all things. But for the clever player, for the resourceful Titan, it's a strategic arsenal waiting to be unleashed.
So let's break it down. Who actually wants to play in the trash? What kind of deck looks at a pile of discarded cards and sees a treasure trove?
Well, several factions have a deep mechanical connection to the Junkyard. It's a core part of their identity. First and foremost are the Rustborn. For them, decay isn't an end state, it's a power source. Then you have Titans like Kleptorix. For a master thief, what's discarded is simply unguarded.
And on the other side of the spectrum?
You have Titans like Verdessia. Her philosophy is that nature wastes nothing. Death is just compost for new life. So whether it's corruption, theft, or rebirth, any deck built around echo, salvage, or decay loop mechanics treats the Junkyard as its primary resource.
Okay, so it's a central hub for very different ideologies. But what is it, mechanically speaking? Where does it sit? And when does it come into play?
Mechanically, it's the zone where defeated, broken, or spent cards go. It's used constantly. Every time a tool breaks, a task fails, a card is discarded for a cost, or a corrupt surge happens. In terms of location, it's a personal zone, usually placed to the left or rear of your game board. It's separate from the active field.
Separate, to represent the past. Actions that have already happened. But you mentioned it's more than just a record.
It is. The why is where it gets interesting. The Junkyard matters because it transforms failure into fuel. It's an engine. For a Rustborn player, a full Junkyard isn't a sign of defeat. It's the dawn of their victory. For a Verdessia player, it's a garden of sleeping potential.
So how does that work? How does a pile of junk become an engine?
It's all about interaction. When cards leave play, they enter the Junkyard. But for these factions, it's not a one-way trip. They have abilities that let them target, revive, copy, or even corrupt what's in there. It becomes this memory bank for the match.
A memory bank. I like that. It's not just holding cards, it's holding information.
Valuable information. If you see your opponent has 3 copies of their best defensive tool in the Junkyard, you know the coast is probably clear to attack. The Junkyard tells a story. Smart players learn to read that story to predict the future.
So let's dive into that story. What are the key mechanics, the core interactions that make the Junkyard so powerful?
This is where the game's design really shines. There are several core mechanics, each with a unique flavor. The most common one is Scavenge.
Right, Scavenge lets you retrieve a discarded tool and bring it back, usually with some kind of limitation.
Exactly. You're literally scavenging from your own scrap heap. Imagine a tool card, say, reinforced pliers. Maybe it has a scavenge cost. You can pay 2 charge to pull it from your Junkyard back to your hand, but it comes back dented. It can only be used one more time before it breaks for good. It creates a tough strategic choice. Is it worth the resources?
And what about getting resources from the Junkyard?
That would be Salvage. This is different. Salvage is about conversion. It's about breaking things down for parts. Think of a flux card called Scrap Heap Conversion. Its text might read, Banish 3 tool cards from your junkyard. Gain 4 charge. It's a desperate, powerful move that can fuel a massive turn.
But there's a steep cost: banishment. The cards are gone forever. It cripples any other recursion you might have planned.
That's the trade-off. It's immediate power versus long-term strategy. Then things get even more complex. You have decay loops.
A cycle of death and rebirth built right into the card.
Precisely. These are cards designed to die and come back stronger. Imagine a structure card, the Old Workshop. When it's first destroyed, it goes to the junkyard. The next time you play it from the junkyard, its cost is lower, and it comes back as the Haunted Workshop, with a new, stronger ability. The card itself has a memory of its own destruction.
That's incredible design. It reminds me of the core turn structure, that constant cycle.
It plugs right in. Let's reset on that. Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building act, clash, end, 6 steps, infinite ways to forge your victory.
A mechanic like decay loops uses that cycle to tell a story. A card is built, it clashes, and is destroyed, and then it's built again. Changed by the experience.
And speaking of experience, let's talk about the most cerebral mechanic, Echo Replays. This is about recreating an effect from a card in your junkyard without needing the original card. It's your Titan remembering a past move and perfectly recreating it. It's about recognizing patterns in your own history.
Titans like Mirix are masters of that. Their whole game plan is about setting up powerful sequences and then replaying them from memory for a fraction of the cost.
They are. Mirix's Titan power might let you pay CP to choose a task card in your junkyard, play a perfect copy of it, and then banish the original. It's a ghost of a past action. And finally, you have the most menacing mechanic of all, Rust Debt.
The heart of the Rustborn.
This is their engine of chaos. These are cards that grow stronger based on the number of cards in a junkyard, sometimes yours, sometimes your opponent's. A Rustborn player is actively trying to fill both junkyards. They create chaos to feed their own power.
And it puts their opponent in a terrible position. It creates these no-win scenarios. If I destroy their tool, I make their Rust Debt stronger. If I don't, the tool stays on the field. What's the right play?
It forces your opponent to second-guess every move. A card with Rust Debt might say, this attack gains +1 power for every tool card in your junkyard. Suddenly, your 10 broken tools aren't a sign of a failed strategy. They're a +10 damage bonus waiting to end the game. It completely inverts the meaning of loss.
This is fantastic. It makes the junkyard a central battleground. So let's get practical. If a player wants to build a deck around this, what should they be thinking about?
Well, the approach is very different for each archetype. For a Verdessia regrowth deck, you're building an engine. You need enablers, cards that let you discard for a benefit, and you need payoffs, cards that trigger when they hit the junkyard. It's a careful balancing act of setup and reward.
And for the Rustborn?
For a Rustborn Decay deck, it's all about the tipping point. The deck feels weak for the first few turns. You're just failing, breaking your own stuff. Then you hit a threshold of cards in the junkyard. Suddenly, every card you play is a game-ending threat. It's a slow burn that ends in an explosion.
What about the Echo decks? How do they win?
An Echo deck is a control deck at heart. It doesn't always win with big attacks. It wins by reusing powerful control spells, tasks, from the junkyard over and over. They can lock the opponent out of the game, creating a soft lock where the other player can't effectively play cards anymore. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
With all this power, there has to be a counter. How do you fight a strategy that feeds on failure?
You fight it with what the community calls junkyard hate. These are cards specifically designed to disrupt these strategies. The ultimate silver bullet is the banish mechanic. A single card like Purge the Past can remove an entire junkyard from the game. It's devastating.
It's a hard reset. Years of strategic decay, gone in an instant.
Exactly. Then there's theft. A Titan like Kleptorix doesn't just counter your strategy, he steals it. He'll use his abilities to take your best tool from your junkyard and use it against you. It's not just a counter, it's an insult.
So you have to defend your junkyard as much as you defend your Titan.
In these matchups, yes, your past is a resource that needs protecting. It creates this fascinating sub-game of control and counter-control, all centered on a zone most players ignore.
So when you put it all together, the junkyard is so much more than a discard pile. It's the soul of the game's darkest and most resilient themes.
It truly is. It's the soul of loss, of memory, and of recursion. It's a testament to the game's design philosophy that every single zone on the board should have a deep thematic and mechanical purpose. It's not just a place for cards, it's a part of the world's soul.
It's a strategic graveyard where tools are destined to rust, to echo, or against all odds, to bloom again. It reinforces that core message we see throughout Tools and Titans. That failure isn't the end. It's just raw material for your next creation.
And in the end, those who can build from the broken, those who can find a new purpose in the wreckage, they often find their victory in the ashes of defeat.
A powerful lesson from the most unassuming part of the game board. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Join us next time as we explore the elemental weave of the Green Six and their quest for enlightenment. Until then, keep forging.
And remember, in every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves: draw, charge, building, act, clash, end.
Simplicity for the novice.
Mastery for the Titan.